So I read this article once about this very, very liberal woman, and she was describing how she converted to Islam, and she was a hardcore left-wing feminist American type. You get the picture. You know, unmarried, woman needs a man like, you know, fish needs a bicycle type of chick. Maybe she did some correspondence work overseas, whatever the case may be. Converted to Islam, and here's my take on that. Somebody in the West with these new sort of progressive, regressive ideas about everything, when they're exposed to Christianity, I don't know how else to say this, they're just bigoted. They're just bigoted towards Christians. It's a multitude of things. It's what they were exposed to by way of thinking in college, and then the media is full of anti-Christian bigots. They don't listen. You know, they lead with all their predetermined opinions about things. The level of biblical ignorance is really, really high, but what makes it interesting is that people don't think it's high. People think that their jaded anti-Christian professor gave them the straight skinny on the good book. So there's this whole like hodgepodge of just crap rolling through the modern person's head on Christianity. It's just these people are bigots, homophobes, on and on and on. But see, where Islam's different is that PC trumps their anti-religious bigotry. We've seen that here on YouTube even, where the YouTube atheist community sort of split when some of them started criticizing Islam. Because it was okay to disrespect Christianity to the 10th power, but if you disrespected Islam, that went against their PC sensibilities, their liberal sensibilities, which is truly the religion of secular extremists. So that had to trump, you know, so we had to ixnay on that, and we sort of self-corrected and so on and so forth, and there was this big ideological war. But the interesting thing to think about is why Islam can slip through their anti-religious bigotry is because their desire to be inclusive in the right ways. Islam is seen as sort of a minority status. So because of that, they sort of condescend to it. And in that condescension will come some actual dialogue, some actual listening. And here's what I think happens. They have an appetite for the holy, they have an appetite for God, because God created us to have that. Predetermined to just rule out Christianity altogether. So Islam comes along and sort of offers them that instinctive sort of pursuit of limits and restraint and all the things that God's Word teaches the Christian to do, that they normally would call bigotry if you framework it in the Christian faith. But if you call it Islam, they listen. It responds to what I would argue is a religious instinct. Before you know it, they've converted to Islam. And I suspect that we're going to see a lot more of this. I really do. I think you're going to see a lot more converts from the left to Islam. And it's not going to be something that they see coming. It's because the human being requires worship. And they'll worship something. But the stuff that the left, the secular extremists worship, it's all hollow. It's calories. It's pablum. And I think even for them, as they reach a certain age, they're longing for something. What they're really longing for is Christ. What they're longing for is truth, God's Word. But their predetermined bigotry will keep them from that. And they'll instead wade into the waters of a manipulation of the Abrahamic religion, which is Islam. Just an interesting thought. Remember I said this, because you're going to see a lot more of it. Thanks for listening.